All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Heart Next Door podcast, where we talk all about maternal health and family wellness. And today's guest is truly, truly a gem. You see, she's waving the love already. We love it so much. Her name is Nancy Griffin, and Nancy is a connector and an influencer. She attributes her success to personal courage, determination, and joy when focusing on women's health and wellness, hence creating Women, Worth, and Wellness. Nancy enjoys every opportunity to inspire and inform women about their personal health and wealth, net worth, and self worth, philanthropy, and legacy, so that women feel fabulous, generous, joyful, confident, and on top of their game every day. Nancy Griffin established Women, Worth, and Wellness in 1994 as a private client wealth advisor for her female clients and their families. Nancy continues to promote and inspire daring and caring leaders, encouraging them to step up and lead in the world, following in the footsteps from many other powerful women leaders in the past. Nancy's overall purpose is to connect and influence for positive impact every chance she gets. Welcome, Nancy. It is truly a pleasure to have you. How are you doing today?
Thank you so well. I was just going through some of my books, and when I wrote that, I haven't written a book. I wrote a chapter in a book. And
Mm,
so I worked my way through a whole workshop, and that's where
wow.
these handouts came. Like if you really loved it, you put that one up, and
Yeah.
if that was a great idea, you put that one up.
Those are so cute. I definitely need to get some of those.
Yeah, they are. So I thought, okay, well, I'll keep those. So I'll have some fun with those.
Yes, we'll have to check out that book for sure. Wow. So I love to just start at the very beginning, just even just reading your bio, how you started this great organization in 1994. So you have so much wisdom and knowledge that we're just so excited to get. So I just would love for you to just start at the beginning and tell us more about your story.
Okay. Well, we all know that the world is unfolding, and I started that whole focus when I headed into wealth management. I was recruited into wealth management in 1992.
Mm,
So you've got to have all your licenses, and you've got a great company to start off with an excellent training program. They said, all systems are go, Nancy. There's only one small problem, and that is you don't have any clients. You've got to go find your own clients.
mm,
So it's like, oh my, here we go. Anyway, part of the training said, make sure when you are prospecting certain people that those people are ones with whom you will want to add value to because it's going to be a long-standing relationship. And so that's when I decided to focus on women, not exclusively, but primarily. And so just as I was getting started, the 90s was really when women were starting to earn more and really taking control of their own wealth. It's also a time when women decided they needed to learn how to play golf too.
mm,
And so I kind of caught the wave with both things. But one of the investment groups that I was working with, they too had come up with a whole marketing program directed towards women, and it was called Investing in Yourself. So all I had to do was curate an event. I had all the materials. So get a great location, do a bunch of marketing,
mm,
invite some women, and I had over 150 women who came to that first one. I really did hit a sweet spot.
mm,
And so then, of course, you meet with people one at a time. And as I met with these women, I found out that they have a disproportionate amount of responsibility for their family's health and wellness.
mm,
It's like every family has their own nurse practitioner, and that's mom.
mhm,
And I thought, oh my goodness, how much do they know about all those different aspects of health and wellness? So that's when I started to partner with not-for-profit health-related organizations focusing on women's health. And in Toronto, which is where I was at the time, we have a fabulous hospital called Women's College Hospital, over 100 years old. And of course, everything they do, all their research, all their programs, all their treatments are directed towards women's health. And so they had different events happening. I would invite my clients and their friends to come, and there would always be a nominal charge, like 25 or $50, which then helped me show in that total wealth plan that I was creating for my clients how charitable giving
Mm,
enhances your net worth
mm,
because all those dollars are a tax deduction.
mm.
But then, furthermore, if you're in a process of giving or donating, more often than not, the recipient of the greatest gift is you as the giver
Yeah.
because you're in a position to share and extend yourself.
Mm, wow, wow, wow. I love that. So many gems from that. Even just what resonated with me the most was when you shared how even back then in the 90s, you noticed that women were caring so much for their families. And still, I can say as a mom of two and a wife today, that is still very much
Right.
the case, right? And so that is so relatable. And so could you tell us a little bit more about the connection between health and wealth from your standpoint?
Well, once I got into the business, my mother had been a really, really strong influence because she'd always been an investor. She'd been an entrepreneur. She always talked about women needed to have their own bank account. That was a big deal for her
Mhm.
because she was a homemaker. And of course, any monies that you had, your husband was the one who earned the money. So that's why her making the statement, every woman needs her own bank account, was a big deal. And so once I started working with women, I realize the most important thing is you've got to have your health. If you don't have your health and you're trying to focus on putting together a wealth plan, that's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. And especially with women who have so many different responsibilities that they just get worn out looking after everybody else. So that's when I really, really wound it right back to the basic, which is you look after yourself first. Women never want to be called selfish. But you know what? You have to be selfish because you have so much to give that you want to give. And when you're selfish and you focus on your health today and in the future, then you've got a whole lot more to give. So it really is in your best interest to really be as healthy as you possibly can be. And then, of course, once you start working on a wealth plan, a total wealth plan will have anticipated health related challenges. So your wealth advisor will say, well, what if you're diagnosed with breast cancer? How are you going to deal with that? If you're off work, do you have benefits from work that will cover that? If you are a business owner, who's going to look after your business while you're going for treatment and consultations? So I really, really advocate that you work with a trusted wealth advisor who can guide you through all of those possible scenarios and make sure that he or she is giving you all the support that you need, not just today, but in the future to help you go forward, not worrying about what happens if something goes wrong. And one other thing is these days, when it's so difficult to find proper health care, we can't afford to be sick. We really cannot afford to be sick. We're not going to be looked after the way we used to be.
Mm. That is so, so, so true. And I love it. I love it. I think we should shout it from the rooftops, what you said, and that self-care isn't selfish, right? You have to
No,
take care of yourself in order to take care of the people in your lives and everyone around you. And that is such a major lesson that we as women are still learning and should learn in order to
that's right.
help us truly thrive. And so, Nancy, wow, you've had such a tremendous career. Your early career at Procter and Gamble, and then later you had a run-in with federal politics. And those are such fascinating pivots. How did those experiences shape the mission that you carry today?
Well, everywhere you go, every new experience you head into, it's another whole group of people, like it's another whole tribe that you're being part of. And that in itself is wonderful because you're learning all sorts of different things from those different people. And along the way, a lot of those people become contacts that you keep through your whole life, which is really interesting. I was one of the first female managers at Procter and Gamble in Canada, so that really dates me. And I was promoted into management, which is a really big deal because Procter and Gamble the only way you could get into Procter and Gamble was at an entry level position, either non-management or management. But as my time there went along, they kind of forgot about me. And it turns out the VP that I had at the time was not promoting me for an international assignment. Well, if you're not going on an international assignment, you are dead in the water. And I didn't know this until after I'd moved on. So I got involved with our community. They had recruited me to go onto our community board, put me in charge of community outreach. And that was in November. The following January, don't we have a terrible, terrible, terrible incident? And they look at me like, okay, you're in charge of community outreach, like you're the spokesperson. So what I did was what I learned at Procter and Gamble is when things go terribly wrong, it's no one person's fault. Everybody has a responsibility in the community to make it the best community it can be. And a lot of that is by working with one another. So that was the approach that I took because we saw that there were gaps in the services in the community and the interrelationship between those different levels of government. But often you don't get anywhere if you start pointing fingers at people. And so that's when I decided to run politically, not because I knew I'd win, but when you run politically, what's really important is your presentation skills. Like what are you trying to tell me? What do you care about? What should we be aware of? And how should we do things differently? Because you're presenting to a discerning audience. And so it was terrific. It was a wonderful experience. Our daughter at the time was playing hockey, and of course we cheered all kinds of different games for her. So I recruited her whole team to come and do a cheer for me, and they were fabulous. Anyway, the lady who did win was trying to recruit them and, to keep on going with her campaign. And we said, no, 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 that was just kind of a goodwill gesture to support me. But anyway, so then of course you're basically leading a lot in the community, and it's time to get out of the community and do something else. So through that process, this woman that I met recruited me into wealth management. I wasn't headed that way, but she got to know who I was and said there is a big, huge gap in terms of wealth advisors, female wealth advisors, and she had just started recruited me, said, meet with my boss and see what you think. Met with him. He and I hit it off. So go get your licenses and come back. And once I got there, I was sorry I hadn't been there 20 years earlier. So for any of your listeners who were and that was in my 40s. So if any of your listeners are the least bit interested in wealth management, by all means, and you're a female, by all means, it's not too late because it is a role that you can do into your 80s. As long as you can hear and look after people and move around, you can do the job for a very, very long time. So that's how that was kind of how one thing led to another, led to another. And then, of course, once I got there, then focusing on women and then working with all these different organizations. I actually started the first women's golf tournament with
Wow.
Women's College Hospital, and
Wow.
that was 1994.
Wow.
And we had 32 golfers, which was great. You got enough to get started. But in 1997, we had 144 golfers. So it was a big deal. And now there are golf tournaments all over the place, for women with different hospitals and different organizations. So always lots of fun.
Yes, definitely. Wow, Nancy, you just have so many tremendous accolades, and I love that it all comes from your impact in the community. You've also been recognized by Canada with 125 award for outstanding community leadership. Just tremendous, tremendous work. But I want to come back to something you said earlier. I love the tip about wealth advising and management for women. And I love how you use also in your work, instead of just the term wealth advising, you also use the term legacy advising. And so
Correct.
could you tell us, when did you first realize that legacy advising wasn't just about money, but about meaning? What does that mean?
Correct. And we started when I did these events with a charitable donation, and that was 1992, 94. Now, here we are 32 years later. And now the big focus for women is on philanthropy and legacy planning. Excuse me, because women are earning a whole lot more. But more importantly, they're now starting to inherit from their parents, and they'll probably inherit a whole lot more from their partner, assuming their partner is male. So all of a sudden, women have this incredible power opportunity to steward wealth. And it's kind of unnerving because it's like, oh my goodness, never in my entire existence did I ever expect that I would have this amount of power with money. So that's why it's really, really important to work with a trusted advisor to make sure that, and when you work with a trusted advisor, it's like working with your doctor. You have a lot of personal conversations because that person will ask you a lot of personal questions. Like if you imagine it's the day after you have died, what does your world look like? Well, all of a sudden, you may have a whole bunch of assets that you haven't thought about and have not thought about how they can be passed along tax efficiently. Well, philanthropy is one of the best ways of doing some tax efficiency planning, and so that in itself is a standalone. Earlier on, obviously, you don't have to die to give. Everybody will die at some point. Nobody gets out of here alive. But during your lifetime, again, it enhances your net worth by making a charitable donation because it is a deduction from your tax return. And the same thing with self-worth. And the more you do these sorts of things, the more you get a handle on the whole wealth plan, the more confident you become. Because it's like, well, if this happens to me or that happens to me, and yes, that's a terrific idea. I think I would really like to donate some dollars. All of those things are choices that you can make that will ensure that your future is the best it can possibly be from a wealth standpoint. There's nothing worse than some tragedy happening, and it is the day after, and you say, oh my goodness, if I'd only known. Oh my goodness, if I'd only taken advantage of what that person was talking to me about, then this wouldn't be my reality.
Mm,
So getting on top of it all is so, so important. And sometimes women just back away from it because sometimes their partner's the one that's been doing all of the heavy lifting, understanding and communicating and um, all the different choices that happen. But don't allow that to happen. Do not allow that to happen. If
mhm,
you're just getting started, pay attention to it all.
mhm,
If your partner has been doing it for a long period of time, it's time for you to get involved. And some of the best ways to work your way through challenges in life is with that wealth advisor as a couple. Because sometimes when you try to talk to one another, no, neither of you really has the answer. So then you just ignore it or you get into an argument or whatever. Whereas with the wealth advisor, you both are hearing the conversation and you're both then able to make the decisions that need to be made.
That is such great advice, especially a lot of our audience members are moms, and in the maternal health space. And I think that when we think about not just our personal, benefit, but also the benefit that that serves for our children and our
Correct.
legacies, and that becomes very, very essential. So thank you so much for just sharing that with us. And so you have a philosophy, Nancy, of giving more than you take. And that is something that's so central to the work that you do. And so, how does that principle show up in your business and your life today?
Well, every chance I get, I like to go out of my way to help somebody else however I can. You know, you can do big things, but you can also do little things. For example, I think a couple of weeks ago, saw something on Facebook that said, if you see somebody without a smile, give them one of yours. And it's so
I love
simple.
that.
It's so simple because there's so many things in this world that are taking us down that it's so challenging. So just do a little something that gives that person a little skip in their step. It certainly will give a step in, put a step in your um, activity because you'll feel good that you've possibly helped somebody else feel a little bit better. And of course, volunteering, you know, pick your organization, pick what you care about, get involved. And once you start to do that, then you become a catalyst so that it's more than just all about you. Now all of a sudden it's you as a catalyst to help somebody else. And it doesn't matter what it is. Just pick a pick an organization. If you care about children, lots of opportunity. If you care about animals, lots of opportunity. Seniors, lots of opportunity. It's
Mhm.
all there.
Yes, for sure. And like you said, one drop causes a ripple in the entire
Yes.
ocean, and that's really what it's all about. So that is so true. And then you in particular, Nancy, I'm just curious, as an accomplished woman, we're going into a new year. We are here. It's 12 days into the new year, into 2026 at the time of this recording. And so, how do you define success for an accomplished woman? And has that definition changed at all since you began your journey over 30 years ago?
Well, when we post our LinkedIn profile. There's always the question, how do you define yourself? And this one person that I knew well over many years, he said, "You are a legacy advisor to accomplished women." I said, "Wow, that is amazing."
That's powerful.
And so recently I was on another podcast, and this woman stopped me in my tracks because she said, "Nancy, do you define an accomplished woman today the same way you did way back when you started?" And I thought, because you just kind of keep going, going, going. And I thought, no, an accomplished woman for me today is someone who has achieved a lot, but somebody who is continually focused on making a difference to make the world a better place, locally or globally, so that you're continuing to bring your uniqueness forward in whatever way you can to make things a little bit better for the world and for others.
I love that. I love that for sure. And so 30 years ago, how would you have defined an accomplished woman? Was it different? A lot different?
It was, because then we all aspired to be accomplished.
Mm,
So we all work, 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 climbing the ladder, doing whatever we're doing to become accomplished.
yeah.
Well, guess what? Lots of women are now very accomplished,
Mm,
very accomplished. And the last thing that I want them to do is just park. It's like keep on going. You've got
yeah.
so much more you can offer. And
Mhm.
even if you don't want to do it full time, part time, just be a role model to younger people and be a mentor to a younger person. Be a sponsor for somebody else. It doesn't mean that it's a full-time job,
Mhm.
but just keep on going, focusing on something beyond yourself.
I love it. I love it. And that reminds me of a quote by Gandhi. I remember when I went on my first mission trip, that was one of the quotes that they share with us, is that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service to others.
There you go.
Right. And
It's
that's
a completely different mindset, completely different.
entirely different. That's so true. And so you so often talk about aligning health, wellness, and self-worth. So what's the most common disconnect that you see among high achieving women, and how do you help them restore balance?
They don't think they're worthy.
Mm.
So you just have to, I said if I could wave a magic wand and get Taylor Swift to come with me, we would do a worthy tour. We would do a worthy tour. You are worthy. And the other day I was on this webinar about how you can become a top-notch public speaker. And this woman's advice was, if you think you can, you can. And if you're waiting for perfection, it's not going to happen. Like the most important thing is that you are interested and you want to. So therefore, you're worthy. Throw yourself into it and know that you've got the right to be there and you've got the right to learn. You've got the right to make a lot of mistakes, but in making those mistakes, obviously, you're going to get a whole lot better. So we used to say go big and go home. Now we say go big and keep going.
I love that so much. And that really resonates, honestly, with me personally, Nancy, because that has been the biggest thing for me, especially this past year. This has been, this last year was my first year as an entrepreneur. And the worthiness piece was a big part of it that I didn't really realize was something that I was subconsciously dealing with because. I guess I never been put in scenarios where I had to put myself out there in that way. And so I think that is so beautiful and also affirming to hear you say that. It also lets me know that I'm not the only one that struggles with that, right? That we all, especially as high achieving women, ambitious women, struggle with that too. And that the best advice that I hear you saying is that you just have to keep going. And if you believe you can do it. Simple as
Right.
that.
And there's a syndrome that's called tall poppy syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of that
No, I
before,
haven't.
but it came from Australia.
Mm,
And it's very simply because high performing women will be recruited into key roles. And
mm,
once they arrive, some of the people that are already there are a little miffed and they may work hard to bring you down. And sometimes what happens is this new person who was recruited with all the best intentions just quietly, moves on, says, I don't think this job is for me or whatever. And they exit stage left when in fact, you keep going. You are worthy of continuing on in that role. And obviously you've got to be smart about how you can gain the confidence of these people who are not too keen on you being there, but don't head for the hills. You stay firm, know you're worthy, and find a way to work your way through it so that everybody is okay. If you, that's my dog. I don't know if you're going to hear it.
No,
Anyway.
I can.
Um, but dial it up, tall poppy syndrome. And it happens frequently. And lots of times people just don't talk about it.
Yes, for sure. But that's so powerful, just the advice that you've gave. And I'm just so thankful just for all of the wisdom that you have been sharing with us and that you continue to share. And I have one more question for you before we wrap and I allow you to share with others where they can connect with you. I'm just so curious. One of the big things that we often talk about on this podcast is legacy, and we know that's very interwoven into your work. And so I'm curious, as you look ahead, we're in this new year, thinking about your legacy, and your business and your service to the community and to the world. What's your boldest vision for women, worth, and wellness? And how do you see that movement evolving in this next decade?
Well, that more women will step up. I just sent off a pitch letter this morning to a big financial organization. Everybody's focused on the amount of wealth that women have and how there's a whole lot more coming. But what they're not focusing on is twinning health with wealth.
Mm,
And because this Women Worth and Wellness brand is holistic, you circle right back. And with philanthropy, if you care about women's health, you can invest in women's health so that you leave something behind that makes the world better for somebody else. So it's about thinking about your whole life in totality and the different aspects of it and how you can, it really is a recipe, bringing it all together so that it's fabulous. You know that you've made a difference. You know you've saved a bunch of taxes. You know you've given back to an organization or more that you care about. And in doing all of that, you've become a role model, not just to your own family, but others that are in your circle.
mm,
They say if you can see it, you can do it. You can be it. If you
yeah.
can see it, you can be it.
Yes, 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 for sure. Wow, thank you so much, Nancy. So much wisdom, so many gems that I definitely am taking from this conversation. And you have personally, made a difference in my life for sure. I definitely needed that worthy message, that worthiness
Good,
message.
good, good, good.
Thank you so much for that. And I would just love for you to share before our time together ends, I would love for you to share with the audience where they can connect with you and learn more about your work.
Okay, website is womenworthwellness.com. And my email is Nancy at womenworthwellness.com. And we're just launching a whole speaker series for the year. And every month we've got one or two women who are going to share their story in terms of their accomplishments. But then what are they working towards next?
Mm,
So we're starting to see how those women's stories can be role models and inspiration for other people. And
truly.
so if you go to the website, you'll see it listed there. And if you want to register and join us, you are more than welcome to.
Awesome. Well, I honestly look forward to that. Personally, that will be such a beautiful opportunity to learn more and just to get some wisdom from you. And thank you so much, Nancy. You are truly an inspiration. I've enjoyed our time together. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time on the Heart Next Door podcast.